Welcome, beautiful people of all ages, shapes, and colors, to another episode of the Hit Your Free Throws podcast, where we encourage you to stick to the basics. I'm one of your hosts, TV, aka TV on basketball, alongside my host, the Knockdown Jay, aka Jay. How's it going, my guy?
It's going good, my guy. Bro, we're getting closer to the NBA season, and now we got preseason hoops TV. We're in a good spot right now, bro.
Exactly 2 weeks away. Actually, just less than 2 weeks, 13 days. But NBA season's about to kick off. And like we've been telling you guys throughout this entire preseason, it's about to turn up. The content is turning up. We just finished the Hit Your Free Throws NBA 2K Universe just recently. So that series out the way. So you know that the rest of this time, we got a bunch of content coming up, especially with the remainder of preseason and the NBA season coming up. You got to know to check out this page, all the other stuff, in order to find the best NBA content. But we have a damn good episode for you today as well. We have the final part of the 21 Qs. We're going to talk about the NBA GM survey, and there's a lot of things that we're gonna try to jump into, because I don't know how seriously they take this, but there are some questionable decisions that they have on this list. Of course, we have the draft, which is going to be a really fun draft today, and of course, the quiz to end off the show, as we always do. But before we start this fantastic episode, we do have to plug our socials. Make sure you follow Hit Your Free Throws Pod on TikTok, Instagram for the best daily NBA content. Like I mentioned, the series just finished over there, but we have a bunch of stuff coming up soon. The clips, everything. You could be finding that all on the TikTok and Instagram pages. And of course, we're going to have the daily content coming out soon. Besides that, the YouTube, remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell if you want to see our beautiful faces over there with all these episodes. And of course, if you're trying to support on the podcast networks, Spotify and Apple, just remember to subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. And don't forget to follow our personal socials as well, which are going to be making a comeback pretty soon. At TV on Basketball, at the Knockdown J, you're going to be able to see a lot of that stuff coming soon, as well as the what is it called? The Daily NBA Picks Challenge. That's what it is, which we're going to be making its return soon, with a new caveat, which you'll see in the coming weeks as well, which is going to tie into the pod. It's going to tie into the pod, which is going to be really, really dope. Yeah. But yeah, pretty long intro, Jay. Are you ready to talk some NBA basketball?
Dude, I'm hyped. Can we talk about this goofy survey?
Yes, let's get the survey. This is some goofy ass shit over here, man. The NBA GM survey is out. You know, shout out to the man. What's his name? He does this survey every single year. John Schumann.
Kevin Pelton.
Sorry, Kevin Pelton. He does this survey every single year. It's always a fun talk, but every single year there's always like some things on the survey you're like, the GMs think of this, they always think of this. It's like, you know, it's some pretty typical questions, but it's just some like really, really interesting responses coming up from the survey. But Jay, I'm gonna throw it over to you. What is, like, out of the survey, what is like some of the ridiculous things that you've seen over here?
I mean, dude, we were literally joking about it before the podcast. Like, some of the stuff that's just so hilarious is like Luka Doncic and the fact that like he got put in point guard, small forward, and shooting guard in terms of like where he's considered as the best position. And I thought it was hilarious because, don't get me wrong, he doesn't have a ton of versatility offensively, but like, let's be real, like Luka is the point guard on this team.
Yes.
Like, that just is definitively what it is. Luka doesn't even guard the three like that. I mean, you can make an argument, maybe he guards the three, maybe more than he guards the point guard, but
yeah,
that's more like situationally based. There's a lot of things where that just seemed like they were like reaching. I thought something else that was like super interesting and like worth considering as well was the love shown to the Oklahoma City Thunder throughout this survey, especially in the team that will be the most improved in the 2023-24 season. They were the team that got the most votes in that regard. And I thought that was huge because I think that this is the team that everyone wants to cling on to, right? Like, this is the feel-good team. I think we joked about it last time that like Sacramento was the team that like nobody believed in and everybody soon jumped on the bandwagon for, right?
Yeah, they want to root for them.
I think last year, Oklahoma City, it was like, they're a cute little team, but like outside of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander dropping 30, like I'm still kind of dicey about this team. But as you look further and further down the list, Josh Giddey's playing well. We saw what he was able to do with Team Australia over the offseason as well. Where he was able to, show some new little wrinkles for himself. Everybody likes Jalen Williams, J-Dub, and what they think his progression in year 2 will be. Obviously, for those who haven't seen, Chet Holmgren is back in the building, and the boy is already coming out swinging heavy, and he gives a very different element to this Oklahoma City team that wants to play versatile, wants to be switchable, wants to get out and run, shoot threes, be long and lanky. There's a lot to like about bringing a guy like that back onto the roster. So I love that they gave a lot of respect to the Oklahoma City Thunder and didn't view last year as just like a flash in the pan, which I think is important because there is a like about what Oklahoma City is building. And then there's one other thing that I thought I will touch on very briefly, I guess, which is in regards to defense. This was something that I wasn't sure how much energy I wanted to give, but I think it's important to note that Giannis Antetokounmpo's name came up as the best defensive player in the NBA, right?
Yes.
And he also was voted just outside of the top 5 as the best interior defender in the NBA.
Yes.
He was also noted as the most versatile defender in the NBA.
Yeah.
So the reason why that stands out to me is because I think that element of Giannis Antetokounmpo is going to be really important this year when you look at the makeup of this team now with Jrue Holiday no longer on the perimeter. Yeah. Giannis Antetokounmpo as an interior presence, you can argue on the outside as well as a perimeter defender, but I would say on the interior next to Brook Lopez is going to be much more important in a season like this than in past years. And I don't think we have a bold prediction segment this episode, but I am going to throw something out there just kind of based off this GM survey. If this is the approach we're going to take, and I do think there is some validity to this, I don't necessarily know if Giannis is the most versatile defender. I think there is a little bit of caveat to that because I think he just always had a very good supporting cast, which has allowed a guy with his build to be a lot more physical or take more risks, be more of a gambler, right? I think there's a lot more he can do when you have Jrue Holiday, Chris Middleton,
Brook Lopez,
You have all of this versatility around you that allows a guy like that who's already pretty aggressive on both ends to get even more aggressive. With that, I'm picking Giannis Antetokounmpo as my early DPOY because I feel like, and I don't even know if that's a hot take or not, but I genuinely feel like he's going to need to be DPOY level to really make this team a legitimate threat to come out of the Eastern Conference. Because I think we know the offense is there, but we also know that the depth is lacking in a way that we haven't seen for this Milwaukee Bucks team in a while. We also know that this team defensively just took a very big hit in the backcourt department to the point that they've got their new head coach saying that Malik Beasley might be taking the hardest assignments on a night-to-night basis. I don't know if that's the kind of faith. I don't know if that's the kind of faith I want to be putting out into the universe. If that's the kind of stuff that we're going to be seeing, where Malik Beasley might have the hardest perimeter guard on a night-to-night basis, Giannis's ability to help protect the paint becomes that much more important. Giannis's ability to help as an interior defender, as a help guy, sliding from side to side in the paint to help protect the basket becomes that much more important. So 100%. Giannis's ability on defense becomes like a big X factor in a way for this team. So I'm picking him as my early DPOY.
Yeah, and we're going to be going through all of those awards next week. So that's a little bit of a preview over there. But it's going to be like a big discussion when we talk about the awards next week. But getting to a couple of your points. The Oklahoma City Thunder, that was one of my notes too. They were all over the survey. Best young core at 73%, by the way. 73%. The most improved team, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being the top 3 most voted best point guard in the league. They had him as like one of their MVP candidates as well. So they're all over this list. And I'm glad they're showing they're getting shown the love because they basically kept the same lineup as last year. Now adding Chet Holmgren to the lineup, and we're going to talk about him a bit too because oh boy, this team, if he could be what we think he could be, could just make this team even more deadly. But yeah, I'm glad to see them getting getting a lot of love. And as for the Milwaukee Bucks, I mean, plain and simple, we've seen what this defense looks like when it's anchored by Giannis Antetokounmpo. It's pretty average. They were 15th in the league that one season when Brook Lopez was missing like 60-something games. The year after, he played a full season, back at number 1. That tells you a lot with the kind of perimeter help that he, like the supporting help that he has on the defensive end. Having Chris Middleton and Jrue Holiday as your point of attack defenders was so good for so many years. Brook Lopez transforming into one of the best defensive bigs has been very useful, and that has allowed Giannis to be the roamer, to be like kind of the defensive highlight reel that we've seen for the Milwaukee Bucks over these last couple of years. We can make the same argument for Jaren Jackson. Him anchoring a defense is not really like we see that in the playoffs. He gets abused on the boards. We've seen that in FIBA. He gets absolutely abused. Put Steven Adams back there, being the big burly presence that he is, changes a whole lot. So you might be right. Giannis is going to have a bigger defensive load. I think he's willing to take up that task, knowing that he has Damian Lillard on the team. But you also make the great point into saying he needs to be great. It's not just enough for him to put extra effort on there. It has to be producing results. That's why him being an early defensive player of the year candidate is actually pretty good, because we know that the Milwaukee Bucks can still be an elite defense, and that elite defense is gonna be a byproduct of how great Giannis is going to be individually on the defensive end, because he's going to take more perimeter assignments. He still has to be that roamer on the field. On the court. So that makes a lot of sense over there. In terms of my GM survey, kind of like pointing out things. Like I mentioned, Luka Doncic, multiple positions. Who decided to vote Kyrie as the biggest breakout player in the league?
My God, that was another one, bro.
The biggest breakout player. No, we're not talking about Anthony Edwards. We're not talking about RJ Barrett in the league. No. Let's talk about the multiple-time All-NBA Kyrie Irving, who's going to become the league's breakout player this year. Absolutely love that answer. I mean, it's probably just one GM saying that. Who knows? It might be the Mavs GM, but at the same time, him as a breakout player, I don't know about that. Another thing I noticed, and maybe this kind of shows like who's gonna maybe how NBA teams view this acquisition, but the fact that Jusuf Nurkic got consideration for the most impactful acquisition of the offseason, not underrated, the biggest impact, apart from Damian Lillard, apart from Jrue Holiday, Bradley Beal, Jusuf Nurkic got a vote or two on this. I don't know what that says. We talked about in the past when they made the trade, it might be a better fit. He could maybe not ask for as many touches as DeAndre Ayton. Maybe it's a better fit for the team. But being the biggest impact in terms of player acquisition in the league, I don't know about that. Besides that, the Lakers being named, having some votes for most improved team. I mean, they made it to the conference finals. How much more can they really improve off that? I don't really know about most improved about that, but I have that as a note. Another player, I don't think we've talked about him at all. I don't think I've heard this guy's name at all this offseason. But Sasha Vezenkov of the Sacramento Kings, getting, underrated rookie pickup, potential rookie of the year winner. I don't know if you know anything about this guy, but, that European flavor added to the Sacramento Kings, maybe I haven't seen him play that much, but could be something to look out for. And then the final point. I don't know who's watching the Toronto Raptors last year, but whoever voted Nick Nurse as the best offensive coach in basketball is blind. Who thinks that an offense centered around Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet isos throughout the entire game is considered the best offense in the league? Hell no. Oh no, I am not taking this. I love Nick Nurse, brought us the championship, all that good stuff. But to consider him the best offensive coach, who voted for him as the best offensive coach in the league? This is a 2019. And also, when you look at 2019, what was most of the offense? Kawhi Leonard isolations in the playoffs. I don't think it's very creative. I just want to put that out there. But yeah, those are my biggest ones. I guess the one we can if you want to deeper on is the use of Nurkic thing, but it's some really interesting.
I don't know, man. I think the Yusuf Nurkic one is hilarious because, like, the minute they see that dude get put in a pick and roll in the regular season, just alone, this whole thing blows up in smoke, right? Like, the minute they see this dude, the minute they see this dude in the DHO, it's over. It's like, at that point, it's like, on a possession-to-possession basis that unless Yusuf Nurkic is moving like the Nurkic of like 5 years ago, which I don't know how he would be able to do that coming off of like significant injury history these last 2 to 3 years. There's no way that this guy is going to be able to hold up on the interior. This kind of goes back to where we were joking about like this idea that they thought they were getting an upgrade defensively over DeAndre Ayton in the acquisition. It's like not even realistic. Like this is clearly one of those votes where like somebody in the organization wanted to try to shout out one of their guys, but they had to be a little different because saying Bradley Beal would have been too easy. So they give it to Yusuf Nurkic, knowing dang well that Yusuf is just another additive to them wanting to be an elite offense. This is a team that's going to try to put up 130 to 140 points a night and force you to compete. Like, let's be honest, this team is not geared to defend. We've seen it. Like, even if you go through many people's offseason outlooks on this team, people are talking about like Keita Bates-Diop being like like a very important player because on the wing he might be their most impactful defender, or the fact that like Yuta Watanabe is like a scrappy defender. Like we're talking about guys like who are not high level guys but are effort energy players being your best defensive options. It's like, come on, bro. Like, don't get me wrong. One of my favorite players is a guy that on the Chicago Bulls, Alex Caruso, who's all built off of high energy, high impact. But the dude's also a technically sound on-ball defender, which is why he's one of the best perimeter guards in the league on that side of the ball. Mm-hmm. But, like, that's not what we're talking about over in Phoenix. You know what I'm saying? So, realistically speaking, Yusuf Nurkic, impactful how? Being the fourth option offensively? Well, guess what? DA was going to be that. So, Yusuf Nurkic just taking that spot nullifies any real semblance of impact he provides. That's anything more than some of the other guys that clearly were on this list. So I mean, the Yusuf Nurkic thing was hilarious. Obviously, the Nick Nurse thing, I thought that was hilarious actually as well. When seeing that got any kind of consideration. You notice there's not too much Bulls love in this survey. So from that department, I don't have a lot to say. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that's a bad thing. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, 100%. One last thing I want to do before we move on to the 21 Qs. 5 years ago in this survey, they said that the best rookie is going to be coming out of the 2018 draft class was DeAndre Ayton and Jaren Jackson Jr. All I want to say is shout out to Trae Young and Luka Doncic. You know,
shout out to Shea too.
Shout out to Shea as well.
Yeah, bro. That list is a little longer than you would have thought. Like 5 years later, in terms of like where those guys are versus like what the projections were. And don't get me wrong, DeAndre Ayton, that still might be a good pick. Maybe, I mean, he won't be considered as like the best player, but maybe he finally starts to really shine in this season. But and Jaren Jackson Jr. just came off a DPOY, so I don't want to poo-poo his efforts either. But we clearly know that those two guys aren't even the best from that draft class.
Yeah, we can make the case. Honestly, you can make the easy case that 3 of those players are better than those 2 guys anyway. Yeah. Also, shout out to Michael Porter Jr., who's also made it on this list, who was also on this draft as well, who had it, and Jalen Brunson. And it's a pretty damn deep draft class. So but yeah, I think they got that completely wrong. Moving on to the next section of the pod, and we are going to be finishing off our 21 Qs for the season. As you know, we've been going the last 2 weeks. We've been doing 7 questions an episode, and we're going to be using these questions to prompt us into talking about what's going to be happening this season, and we're going to be doing our final 7 questions here. And Jay, there's going to be some hot takes, so you guys are going to have to prepare for this. Jay, here's the first question. It is going to be a hot take machine as well. Who is your most overrated team in the NBA?
Okay. So I had to think about this one really long and hard. And then I realized that I was thinking way too hard. It's the Golden State Warriors. I don't get this. I don't understand this. they fall into the same category as teams like the LA Clippers and the Lakers, where if they sustain one major injury, their whole thing goes up in flames. And let's take it away from that. Sure, I like Chris Paul as a fit on this team. I like the idea of him playing in staggered minutes next to Draymond Green when Stephen Curry isn't on the floor. But let's be honest. I just realistically don't think Steve Kerr knows how to run offense that doesn't have Steph Curry on the floor. Like, I think that's just the genuine look of it, bro. Like, I don't believe that Steve Kerr has the ability to garnish any kind of real offensive production when Steph Curry is not on the floor at any given time. And so that puts me in a position where, okay, I think they worked on their depth a little bit. And I think there's some things to like. Jonathan Kuminga is obviously still on this team as well. There's some things to point to in terms of what you might want to lean on from a squad like this, because at the end of the day, I think that GP2 being back is big. I think that Chris Paul can fit in his own way. Wonder where a guy like Kevon Looney fits in all of this, right? Because does he start and Chris Paul come off the bench, or does he come off the bench and Chris Paul starts at the 1, Steph Curry at the 2? One of my biggest things that I'm nervous about is, does Andrew Wiggins start at the 3 and Klay Thompson continues to guard up positions and now he's guarding as a small ball 4 for this team? Like, this team is not only significantly older, they're gonna be trotting out like one of the smallest starting lineups in the league if this goes how we think it might. Like, Chris Paul, Steph Curry, Andrew Wiggins, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. Like, yeah, there's a ton of versatility there, but you're like easily one of the smallest starting fives in the entire association. So, like, you pair that with the fact that we still don't know what offense without Steph Curry on the floor looks like for this Golden State Warriors team, because they tried it with Jordan Poole. They've tried it in a lot of different iterations, and Steve Kerr still just doesn't seem to be able to get it right. Maybe with a guy like CP3, they can finally steer the ship in the right direction, but we have to see it first. That element by itself is its own thing. This team could implode on itself just by how they treat the Chris Paul scenario. Right? So there's too many factors where this idea that like Golden State is just a lock to be a top 5 seed in the Western Conference, I feel like that's like being a little, me personally, I feel like that's being a little negligent of the fact that there's still so many elements that don't really favor them too well as a regular season team, especially.
Exactly. I mean, I'm going to talk about them a little bit more later, but this is testing the death lineup to the absolute max. Have you going to have 3 guys on the floor, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, and Chris Paul all there? It's going to be very interesting to see how that type of death lineup is going to work. When in previous years you had people like a Jordan Poole, or you had someone like Andre Iguodala in the past. It's going to be very interesting to see how that all shapes out. For me, the most overrated team in the league, and I hate to say it because I was on that wagon a couple years ago, but now I just can't see it anymore. It's the New Orleans Pelicans.
True.
I hate to say it, but they are a fun team. And on paper, I mean, I guess this is kind of like the whole key to this, that on paper, they look fine. They look great. And Zion back in the lineup, I saw him a couple days ago in preseason. Great. He is on the floor. That is a positive. But when you take it to the fact, the Brandon Ingram injuries from the last couple of years, the Zion injuries, and then after that, you just kind of have, you have some guys there, but you're not going to be like enough like top star depth in order to keep you afloat in the Western Conference, which is absolutely stacked. You might have to put them in that conversation with those teams where it's like a major injury, like an injury to one of their top 2 star players, and the season's done for them. Brandon Ingram or Zion Williamson. And at this point, you can't trust, especially Zion. You can't trust him to stay on the floor. This Pelicans team kind of punched over their weight when it came to the Phoenix Suns series, and we were like, you know what? All they need is Zion, and that's going to be putting them over the top. That's likely not going to be the case. And with Zion on the floor, we know that he can produce, but is this going to produce to more wins? Is it going to be able to bring the Pelicans to the next level, especially when in that time period between that Phoenix series and to now, the West teams just got better. So whether they can keep these guys healthy is a whole question of itself. But even as a team together, are they still going to be that team that could potentially make at least the Western Conference Finals with Zion that we saw a couple years ago? Be able to make it past the first round? I'm not sure. I still see the Pelicans, even with Zion on the team, as first round fodder. And I think that there's like people who love the idea of the Pelicans. And again, the idea of the Pelicans might be better than the actual team itself. But I like that idea. It can only do so much when you have these guys on the court for such a limited game. So I have to name as the most overrated team.
No, I think you make a really good point. I mean, the Pelicans are starting to fall into that category similar to how we talk about the Clippers, right? It's almost mythical at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's the idea that if these guys play, oh, this could be really scary for some other teams across the league. But that if caveat isn't even one that comes with any real caution. It's almost expected at this point, right? They're already limping into the season with guys like Jose Alvarado, who suffered an injury. Trey Murphy III is going to miss significant time. Obviously, you know, we know the injury history of guys like Brandon Ingram, CJ McCollum, and of course, Zion Williamson himself. I also think you make a really great point about the fact that even with Zion Williamson at full strength, maybe they are still just a first round exit. Like maybe we're looking at that team from a few seasons ago and saying you add Zion to that mix and they're instantly a much better team. Are we guaranteeing that they come out of that series against the Suns because they pushed it that far without Zion? I think that might be a little too proactive in terms of giving a real viewpoint on how Zion is in a playoff setting. I also think that might be a little too optimistic in terms of viewing this team under its current makeup, under the new version of what the Western Conference looks like. Because I think another thing that's super important to TV is like, I think we're officially at that point, bro, where I think the league has done the best job it can to incentivize the importance of the regular season. I really don't think when you look at the top, especially in the Western Conference specifically, when you look top to bottom, we had this conversation beforehand, there's maybe only two teams that really don't have, maybe three if you want to count the Utah, aside from the Portland Trail Blazers and the San Antonio Spurs. Every other team in the Western Conference has some version of incentive to try to win basketball games this year. So when you put that in perspective, that makes things much more difficult in terms of identifying where you land in the pecking order if you're the New Orleans Pelicans, because all of these teams from a talent perspective, you can make a case when you go down the list that, like, yeah, Zion has a lot of talent. And I like Brandon Ingram. You like Trey Murphy. But, like, you can make an argument if you go down the list that, like, a handful of these Western Conference teams are just better on paper than them. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to worry about. I agree with you. I think that New Orleans is a team that's become more theory than practice. Mm-hmm. And that's not great when you think about the fact that this was a team that we had really high hopes for a few seasons ago. And now, despite the fact that I agree you put them in as overrated, I also would argue that there's a little less luster on them now.
Yeah. But I think it's the whole Zion lore that is still kind of like carrying that potential. Mm-hmm. And now it's like, okay, now they're on the court together. Mm-hmm. I just don't want the expectations to be too high for this team. I really don't want it to be. And we're going to have to, and it's going to be, I feel in the first few weeks, it's not going to be as good as people think it's going to be. And then they're going to start to panic over, what's the move that they have to make next? I think it's still going to be a long process. You still have to kind of like fit it into all this. And like you mentioned, Trey Murphy's not coming into the season healthy. Same as Jose Alvarado, who are key pieces to the rotation. So we have to wait and see. But the Pelicans, like you mentioned, theory over practice, that's what they are right now. Jay, moving on to the next question. We talked about the most overrated team, but which team right now do you think is the most overlooked?
I think the team that's the most overlooked, this is going to sound kind of weird because they have one of the best players in the league, but I feel like it's kind of went under the radar a little bit. I feel like the Dallas Mavericks have not really gotten a lot of respect for the way that their offseason went. And that really intrigues me because I feel like at the end of the day, obviously, I get it. Bringing in Kyrie was more of an expectation than a surprise, obviously, right? Because that was going to be one of the most important dominoes to fall for this team. You can't trade the kind of draft capital they did last season, get 20-ish games of production out of him and then lose him in free agency, right? So
Yeah.
obviously they were going to retain him. But look at some of the things that they were able to do this offseason to kind of bolster things up a little bit further. Obviously, you know, they have Josh Green. I like that they were able to bring in Dante Exum from overseas as another big guard at 6'5". It seems like he got the 3 ball back a little bit. I don't know. I'm not
Who knows?
sure. Used to
Who
be a big
knows?
fan of Dante Exum pre-draft a long time ago, but now he's back in the league. He's got a little bit of a reinvented jump shot. He could be a really interesting guy at the guard position. They bring in Grant Williams, who I think is really big for that team as a defender who can shoot the 3 ball a little bit. Derek Lively, who they drafted as a big man, who I think can just be a screen and roll dude. He's going to finish a lot of possessions. There's a lot of hype around Omax Prosper, who's the guy that they drafted in this year's draft. There's a lot. I think there's a lot to like about this team, but there's 2 things that are very important: the health of Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber. I think that's huge, super important.
One of those guys go down, it's going to be kind of
super important in terms of their health in the front court. And I think the second and most important thing too, outside of that, is the continued progression of Josh Green. Right? Yeah. Josh Green falls into the NBA lore of odd untouchables, right? So, for example, another guy, stop me if you've heard this before, Terrence Mann is not allowed to be thrown in LA Clippers trade talks, right?
Yeah. I guess to a lesser extent to Herb Jones, where he's like completely
No, but see, this is my thing though. Yeah. There are these guys across the league, and I think like you said, to a lesser extent, Herb Jones, because I think there's a certain level of proven that Herb Jones already in his early 2 seasons being in the league is already given us that, like, we know he can't shoot, but he's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league already. 2 seasons in, right? So there's things that you can like from that. Josh Green is another one of those guys who I think has continued to develop really well, but it almost seems like Mavericks fans have built this fan club around him, probably because he's like their only other real young prospect outside of like Luka and Jaden Hardy right now. And then, you know, obviously Omax Prosper and Derek Lively now, but he's their like their cornerstone kid to lean on outside of Luka as like our young asset on the team, right? Yeah. And so I think the most of the lore around this idea of Josh Green being an untouchable is built behind Mavericks fans. That's totally fine. But it's similar to, I'll give you a perfect example as a guy who's stuck in the middle right now. Patrick Williams, right? Yeah. It's this idea that the theory of the guy needs to actualize itself. Now, I'll make the argument that I think Josh Green has lived more up to the theory of his play style than a guy like Patrick Williams has been able to. But I think his continued progression on this team is going to be important, especially as a point of attack defender when you've got guys like Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving as your backcourt. Now your ability to defend on the perimeter becomes that much more important because you're going to be that main line of defense out there more than likely, right? Yeah. There's going to be more than likely situations where Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving start in the backcourt offensively, but Josh Green is more likely to start, so to speak, at the 3 spot and guard the team's best perimeter offensive player. That's the likelihood. Yeah. You know what I mean? So the progression of Josh Green and the health of Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber in the front court, those are the 2 things that I think matter more than anything for this team, because I think we know who Kyrie is. We know who Luka Doncic is. I feel confident in guys like Grant Williams, even them bringing back Seth Curry. Like, there are dudes that I love for this squad, but there are some caveats. I think that Dallas is a team that falls into the category of put up or shut up now. Yeah. I think we even saw this in the NBA GM survey. Luka Doncic last season was one of the highest. I think he literally was the highest rated guy as who people viewed was going to be the MVP last year. He dropped, I believe, from like 83% down to 10%. Yeah. I think we're at the, but talent-wise, Luka Doncic hasn't gotten any worse. Yeah. Kyrie Irving does come into the fray, but I don't think Kyrie deters Luka Doncic's ability to be an MVP caliber player. Nope. So I think the only thing that changes your viewpoint on whether or not Luka Doncic will be an MVP this year is that you feel as though we've seen this movie before. Now we need to see it in higher regard. And so now we have to see it on a level where you have the team built around you in this very well optimized way. And don't sleep. They tried to go after Matisse Thybulle this offseason. That might be something else that they're going to prioritize, is trying to still look around for another young defensive wing. So keep an eye out on that for them as well, because they kind of already threw a little mini flyer out there that wing spot is something they still want to shore up. There's a lot to like about this team, TV, and I don't think they've been talked about enough as a team that like deserves to be in that conversation for like best off seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if they play up to their potential, they're gonna be one of the better teams in the Western Conference.
100%. But man, I don't know what you're talking about, Kyrie. He's gonna be the breakout player this year, man. But yeah, no, but for real though, I mean, this Mavericks team, you got your two guys, and I think you really optimized your lineup around them, which is great. I am excited to see, and I think the biggest X factor is seeing how good Derek Lively is like right away coming into the league, because he is the ideal, and I mean the ideal build of a center that you want next to a Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, someone who's able to swat shots. He's 7'1", uber athletic. He feels like the guy. The only thing is, do you want to put that much faith into a rookie right away? Probably not. And then you saw in these early preseason games, he looked like a rookie. He had some moments, but he did look like a rookie. So there's a lot of like good things to like about this team. Again, we have, like you said, we have to see how it is going to work out on the court. But I like the idea of this team, and I think they do deserve a lot more love. They are getting overlooked. For me, Jay, you talked about this team being overrated. I think this team is being overlooked. This Golden State Warriors team.
Really?
I don't know, man. I feel like with the amount of moves that were made this offseason with the Phoenix Suns, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Boston Celtics, the Golden State Warriors were just champions 2 years ago. And sure, they lost a couple of guys there, but the Jordan Poole situation is out of there. That's cleared their mind. You have Klay Thompson on a full year of training camp. You have him back into the fray. Same thing with Draymond Green. And then you have another, not like you're removing Jordan Poole, but you're having a mature mind here in Chris Paul. And I think when it comes to the young guys, we were talking about in the past how the young guys, it just felt like there was such a divide between the young guys and the veterans in the league and in the Golden State Warriors locker room. I think with the amount of situations that Chris Paul's been in, I think he's going to be the good bridge between the two. Like, he's played with teams like the Oklahoma City Thunder, where he had to kind of work with a bunch of young guys over there. He's worked with, a young Clippers team in the past. He's worked with the Rockets in so many different situations. And same thing with the Phoenix Suns to a certain extent. I think that he could be a good bridge between the veterans of the team who have been there for like the entire dynasty, and maybe to kind of bring in like players more into the fray, such as the Jonathan Kuminga, such as a Moses Moody. I think that Chris Paul, I know it's weird to call him this at this point of his career, but he's going to be a good glue guy for the Golden State Warriors. It's weird to call Chris Paul a glue guy, but that's what he's going to be with this team right now. Whether he starts or not, that's still waiting to be seen. And again, the lineups are going to be really interesting. But at the end of the day, you have Chris Paul, you have Steph Curry, Draymond Green. You have three ball handlers on the court that you can run your offense to on a possession-by-possession basis. You have the shooting still with Steph Curry. Hopefully, Klay Thompson can regain his form from pre-injury a little bit more. But I think that this team, and especially now with a healthy Andrew Wiggins coming into a full training camp, I think people are just not talking about this team enough. This is a damn good team still, and I think that as much as the other teams got better, I think the Golden State Warriors still got a chance to make it through.
I think you have a good point. I think you make a valid case for them. I think more so than their actual makeup right now, I think the fact that they have Chris Paul's expiring contract and two guys in Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody still on the team, that is the ace in the hole in their back pocket to utilize. Even if they don't utilize Chris Paul necessarily as a trade chip, I think that having Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody both as potential trade assets more than their actual production on the floor could actually be the ace in the hole to make us more believers in this team. But like I said beforehand, if you look at this squad, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Chris Paul, Gary Payton II. Like if you go down the list, especially in the backcourt specifically, It's a small squad, bro.
It is.
It's a very small squad. I think during the regular season, maybe they can play a lot of up-tempo offense and be pretty dangerous offensively. But defensively, I mean, we're looking at another year where between Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green, they're going to have to be godly defensively to be able to make up for their lack of size on the perimeter. So like I said, I think I'll admit maybe I'm a little rougher on them than maybe others are. And I think that's where your point stands the most, is maybe we're looking too much into their flaws and not necessarily into the things that will make them great this year. But man, that lack of size on that team, that is a notable thing to keep track of throughout the year, because that whole dichotomy between whether or not Chris Paul starts or Kevon Looney starts changes everything in terms of the kind of size and versatility that they put on the floor.
Yeah, I just looked at their roster. Their biggest guy is Dario Saric.
There you go. See, not great.
It's gonna be tough. Waiver market is still there. You know, the bad market, you could still, sign someone before the season, but it will be an issue. But I still think that they have a lot of strengths there, and they have kind of the pieces still and the championship DNA to be able to still make it far into the playoffs. So I still think them as overlooked. Let's go on to the next question, and we're gonna take this one a little bit less seriously. Jay, like we did last week with the dunk contest, we created our best four, and I think that we created a damn good dunk contest. It's time for us to build our dream 3-point contest. You know how it's been the last couple of years? It's the 8-man tournament. Whoever knocks each other out and then make it to the finals, all that good stuff. Jay, it's time for us to build our own. And I think I'm going to start it off over here this time.
Okay.
I don't think you can have this conversation without having Steph and Clay.
Yeah.
Competition.
Yeah.
I think that, we're going to have 4 guys each in this. I think Steph and Clay are the absolute locks. We've seen how good both of them could be in this contest. And when it comes to 3-point names and 3-point value, you have to have these two. I'm not even going to go any further. Those are my first 2 picks, Steph and Clay. Those are the guys I want in there. Jay, who else do you want in this?
I think that if those 2 are going to be your first 2, I think the third guy has to be Dame then.
Yeah.
Has to be.
Yeah. Dame is going to have to be in there for sure. Jay, my other pick here. And then I'll let you go with 2 after this.
Okay. I
want to have Isaiah Joe in here. From the Oklahoma City Thunder. One of the best guys last year in terms of 3-point percentage. And I think that he, ever since leaving the Philadelphia 76ers, has shown his 3-point ability with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And he's going to be a key guy going into these next few seasons, where he's going to be that potential dribble handoff, move off the dribble, move off screens type of 3-point shooter and stuff like that. I think that he would be a great addition to his 3-point contest. A lot of people wanted him in there last year, but I think he should be in here in this contest this year. Give me Isaiah Joe.
I think Isaiah Joe is another one that's really good. I'm going to give you another guy. Shout out to University of Maryland. Get my guy Kevin Huerter in there too, man. He's going to turn into Kevon, as they call him, when he steps into the 3-point ring. I think Kevin Huerter would be a good one. Big-time sniper for them. Over in Sacramento, got to be able to really resurge his career. It was funny when you look at things like usage and on-ball production. It didn't calculate different from his production in Atlanta, but if you watch the tape, it was just more fluid. He was just much more involved in giving actions for that team. But as a spot-up shooter, man, come on now, Kevin Huerter is easily 36, 37% on a regular basis. Definitely knockdown guy. Another guy to get, man, the interesting part is we definitely knocked out all the good guys. I feel like Trae Young's another good one. Former teammate of Kevin Huerter. I think getting Trae Young in there is also a really good one, because I think that it's really important for the baton pass that was the whole Steph Curry to Trae Young thing in terms of play style, so to speak. He's one of those guys that's kind of helped in this whole 3-point revolution thing. And I think if we're going to be in this competitive of a setting, I think having Steph Curry, Trae Young matchup in the first or second round of a 3-point contest is definitely something people want to see.
100%. And I like the way you did it there. Kevin, if you remember back in the day, Nate McMillan said that they got the new Kevin, the new Klay Thompson and Steph Curry there, or Kevin Huerter and Trae Young, and now we have both pairs in the 3-point contest, so that's absolutely great.
Yeah.
My last pick for this, I need to have one of the smoothest shooters in the league, Give me Devin Booker, man. Give me Devin Booker in this lineup. He has one of the silkiest, smooth jumpers in the league. He's won this contest before. We know that he's valid in this type of environment. I think he's gonna be absolutely fantastic, and I think with the ready to start starting lineup there with Steph, Clay, and then a bunch of other guys that have been here, I think that Devin Booker should be a part of this, just mostly for the aesthetic part of it, because he has one of the nicest looking jumpers in the league. Give me Devin Booker as my final pick.
Do I still have one more? Or are we
You
good?
got one more. You got one more.
I thought we had one more.
Yeah.
We gotta get the built like Clay, shoot like Steph, right? We gotta have Buddy Hield as the last guy then. Got to.
You got
only
to.
Right.
100%. Again, another former winner of this contest. I think that that's going to be like a nice little way to end off the team. So the hit your free throws field, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Isaiah Joe, Devin Booker. Then I think on your side you got Kevin Huerter, Trae Young,
Buddy Hield and Dame.
I like that lineup. Let us know if you can create a better one for this 3-point contest coming up this season. Moving on to the next question for the 21 Qs, we are into our final four. Jay, we talked about this a little bit last week, the Vegas over-unders in terms of wins and losses. We have them on the screen right now, and this is going to be a great 2 questions to have for this final part. Jay, when you're looking at these odds, which team are you going to bet on to absolutely hit the under and wins?
Dude, the Lakers at 47.5 is a joke. I'm sorry, bro. Like, that has them placed as having the 3rd best record in the regular season, give or take, in the Western Conference, and I just don't believe it. Like, I don't believe it. Like, don't get me wrong. I said it earlier. I don't think that you're going to be able to take the Western Conference lightly in terms of the regular season, the way certain teams have been able to kind of like just make it to the postseason by just kind of existing and being just good enough. I don't think just good enough is going to be good in this version of the NBA right now, with the player participation stuff going on. Obviously, the in-season tournament being a newly established incentive as well. There's too many things that have now incentivized the use of the 82-game regular season now. Mm-hmm. And that also includes the importance of home court advantage, which we saw the Denver Nuggets take extreme advantage of this past finals run. And the fact that, especially in a conference like the Western Conference, I just think that there's going to be a handful of young buck teams that are going to be much more dangerous in the regular season. I could see the Sacramento Kings once again being a top 3, top 4 seed in the East and the Western Conference, just because they're going to really go for it. I think nobody should sleep on the Memphis Grizzlies, even with Ja Morant missing the first 25 games. Oklahoma City, Minnesota, Dallas. There's a lot of teams in the Western Conference towards that middle of the pack that are going to be more engaged. One of the biggest sleeping giants in the world, despite the fact that I don't even think they're going to be that good, but it is worth considering them on a win-loss basis, is the Houston Rockets have a reason to fight now. Yeah. You know what I mean? That was one of the easy picking teams in the Western Conference for the last 2 to 3 seasons. Now you get Fred VanVleet, you bring in Dylan Brooks, you still have Jalen Green, you have Jabari Smith. I love Alperen Sengun. Like, they've got guys, right? Yeah. And now they have a real incentive to go play winning basketball. Maybe they're still not as good, but with Ime Udoka as the lead guy, as a head coach for them, as another big caveat, this team not only has something to play for, but they've got the talent to be a scrappy team night to night, which makes even them not the easiest team to just scratch off the board during the regular season. So I think the Lakers being so high in regular season play is completely overrated for how they're actually probably going to approach this year.
That's an interesting choice. I think that in terms of the regular season, they are very erratic. And I think that even though what a great offseason they had, I think, like, I don't know, like, with the AD, like, injury problems in the past, the LeBron, it's really hard to trust that. So 47.5 wins, it's a little bit of a high benchmark for this team. I know they ended up this season great with the conference finals, but we've seen how this team operates in the regular season. The sense of urgency isn't really there. Maybe with the new group of guys it changes, but I just don't really see it. But 47.5 wins, that's definitely a good pick over there. For myself, man, I still don't see how this Timberwolves team is going to work. And the fact that they have them at almost 45 wins this year, I can't believe that. I can't with the twin towers of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert. Anthony Edwards is going to be great. I absolutely love the guy, but the space on the floor, I just don't see it working. How are you going to have two of these big men and both guys you have to have in drop coverage? I don't know how that's able to work out. I think that their team is solid, and I think having Anthony Edwards take this next jump is going to be absolutely massive for them. But with already question marks at the head coaching position, and the team being good but not great, but the fact that you still maybe have them as a 6 or 7 seed in the Western Conference, I'm not sure about that. And then you have to take into effect how much they need like Jaden McDaniels on the floor defensively. How is that going to affect their spacing as well? Is Mike Conley going to be available for all games? Is he going to be their main point guard to do this for 82 games? Who knows? I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of this roster, and that whole glut and that like whole spacing issue, especially with the two big men there. I don't think it's going to change unless one of them gets moved.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid point too. I mean, overall, that is kind of a reach, and Minnesota is one of those teams that's kind of walking on eggshells this year because this is one of those years. This goes back to the urgency in the Western Conference specifically that I was mentioning before. Like, they're a team that like is gonna have to win. Like, to even keep think about that. They're going to have to win just to keep faith in keeping their roster as is. Because financially, they're already incentivized to move off of at least consider moving off of somebody like Karl Anthony Towns, for example. But if you produce, maybe you're willing to have this high luxury tax bill for your team that, still might not necessarily go too far in the postseason. But if you're at least a legitimate, viable regular season threat, there is something to look forward to besides just the upside of Anthony Edwards. But if this team can't produce, it's going to really call into question how much longer they can have a team that's this expensive and legitimately keep putting that product out on the floor every single season, knowing that there's clearly a cap on this squad.
Yeah, and we talked about the new CBA as well and entering that third level tax bracket. And when you have to pay Anthony Edwards, then potentially being on the brink of being able to touch that with this roster that they have, it's a little bit going to be interesting. So who knows? It's going to be kind of do or die for the Timberwolves at this point. A trade might have to be made soon, especially for someone like Karl Anthony Towns. Who knows? But I still think 44 and a half wins might be a bit of a stretch for this team. Jay, let's flip the script though. Yeah. Who do you think is gonna hit the absolute over in wins?
Oh man, we got to have at least one real Bulls optimistic segment, man. I'm taking the Bulls to go over 37 and a half, man. I don't care if we get 38. I think we might get I think we might be at least a 40 win team this year, which isn't necessarily hammering the over, but I think we're going to be relatively solid. I'm going to try to go into this season optimistic. Let's put it this way. On the perimeter defensively, every single night you go up against the Chicago Bulls, you're gonna have to see Javon Carter, Alex Caruso, Ayo Dosunmu, Torrey Craig, and maybe Lonzo Ball if he comes back this year. So shout out to your favorite point guard, but he's gonna have a pretty rough night. That's all I'm gonna say. Then obviously we have DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine, who if they're both engaged, that's really big. I think that they've finally empowered Kobe White as a starting point guard. Hopefully that plays itself out, but I think there's still some things to wonder about that. And Vucevic is the new $20 million a year man, so we need him to go out and ball. I hope that hopefully his money has reinvigorated him a little bit to kind of come out here and really hoop for us. I do think he had a little bit of an underrated season last year. This does all kind of come down to the progression of Patrick Williams, and it does sound like Patrick Williams has been very boisterous about the idea of wanting to be more involved offensively on this team. We'll see what that looks like. I told you during the last segment of our 21 questions, Billy Donovan is my head coach that is on the hottest seat of the NBA this year. Maybe as a biased Bulls fan, maybe as a guy who has seen this guy kind of get away with throwing two all-stars out on the court every night and just barely getting by on a night-to-night basis. No matter how you view it, the progression of guys and Patrick Williams specifically this year is going to be important because seriously, if we go another year barely playing competitive ball, we're going to be staring at a really tough situation when it comes to guys like Zach LaVine's future on this team. So I'm going to shoot us for being like a 40-win team. It's not hammering the over, but that's 2 to 3 games over the 37.5 they got us at. And if you give me 40 wins and potential play-in spot as a Bulls fan, I think I'll take that with the kind of offseason we had.
I mean, that's not hammering the over, but I guess, some Bulls optimism. Good for you, man. I feel happy that there's some sort of optimism over there at your Bulls camp. For me, man, the team that's gonna absolutely hit the over this year, give me the Brooklyn Nets. I think this Brooklyn Nets team feels like a really good regular season team. Ben Simmons is going to have a full training camp. I think he's going to be healthy. I don't think he's going to be all-star Ben Simmons, but I think he's going to be a better percentage of himself that he usually is. You're going to have Mikal Bridges on that team. And there's some, solid guys that you just know are going to produce in the regular season when you have Spencer Dinwiddie, when you have Cameron Johnson, you have Nick Claxton. I think it's a solid lineup. They're, I think, projected at 37.5 wins. Kind of like your Bulls, maybe even bordering on a play-in tournament sort of team. The Brooklyn Nets, they're well coached. I have some little bit of faith in them. I really do. It's not going to be like a solo guy. It's not going to be, Mikal Bridges carrying them every single night. I think it's going to be a great collective effort, though. And if Ben Simmons could be 80% or 90% of what he used to be, that's going to just be another all-star level player for the Brooklyn Nets. And he's looked okay in preseason so far. If he can transfer that to the regular season and be, kind of near that guy from the Philly days, I'm liking that team. So especially defensively. So give me the Brooklyn Nets as kind of my team to hit the over.
I think the Brooklyn Nets is a solid pick because I feel like at the end of the day, something else that you pointed out is just I think they just have a steady ship to run with now, right? They've got a definitive guy in Mikal Bridges who I think they genuinely believe in. They've got guys like Spencer Dinwiddie, Cam Johnson. They still have Dorian Finney-Smith. Like, there's a handful of guys that you would like on this team. The X factor is Ben Simmons, but if Ben Simmons is even 50% of himself on this team with low expectations, that's still really solid production for a squad like this. So, I mean, they could kind of just go back to being like the old Brooklyn Nets with like the D-Lo team. Like they could ironically the D-Lo team that had Spencer Dinwiddie on it as well. So yeah, I mean, that's a team that could sneak into the playoffs, be kind of viable, and be a really interesting squad that like you're going to have to watch out for. The only reason I would be a little worried about them is TV, they've got a lot of the position that everybody likes, the wing. They've got a lot of dudes who play that power forward, small forward spot. And that makes them a really solid trade candidate across the league. If they do choose to go the shipping guys off route, that is going to knock them down the standings, but it is going to, help out the treasure trove. It'll be interesting to see how they go about approaching that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these guys were winners in different scenarios. So it's to go to like a try to lose situation. It's not going to be in their DNA. And I think that they come into the fact that sure, we're not going to be a contender this year, but they're going to be pretty damn good. So I think that they're going to still be in the play-in race. And I think 40 wins is definitely kind of the benchmark for them. So I would have them as my team to hit the over. Jay, we're hitting our final two questions. And the last one's going to be a little bit of a doozy.
Okay.
Second to last question. We've seen the Lakers last year coming from the 7th seed, making it to the conference finals. The Miami Heat make it to the 8th seed, make it to the conference finals. The Atlanta Hawks in the past who made it all the way to the conference finals out of nowhere. But Jay, which team do you have making a Cinderella type run in the playoffs this year?
I've been optimistic about them all podcasts, and I guess I'm just gonna stick with it. I think the Dallas Mavericks are next. I think that they're a team that's primed to be able to do it. We know that Luka Doncic shows up in big moments in the postseason. I think the same thing obviously can be said for a guy like Kyrie Irving. They've got a handful of guys who have played postseason basketball: Seth Curry, Grant Williams, Tim Hardaway Jr. even. They've got a handful of guys who have played up to that level or at least played in that environment before. And I think in a 7-game series, that's important as well. And when you stack up the talent that they have at the top, along with the fact that they've got a handful of guys that you can get solid minutes from under that pressure, I mean, the main thing too is they completely underperformed last year. They literally missed the opportunity to even give themselves a chance to make the postseason last year. This year, I think they make the postseason definitively as a top 6 seed. Maybe they're not as low as last year, but I don't think they're as low as the Miami Heat or the Lakers or even, I guess, the Atlanta Hawks were. But I think the more important thing is that they're the team that bounces back from the year prior and shows us that last season wasn't a real representation of what this team can look like when fully assembled. So the Dallas Mavericks are the team that I think goes from being what were they, 11th last year?
Yeah.
I don't think they finish 11th this year, and I also think that they're a team that should be like a dark horse pick for the Western Conference Finals.
Interesting. And I mean, they have the backcourt to do it. Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving are all worlds, so seeing that team potentially make it, I mean, we have to see how the other pieces fit. And you talked about how much it's kind of like more optimized to their star players now, their lineup, which is a better look for them than they have in previous years. So we're going to see if it's going to be able to work out. I like the mix of players. Let's see if they're able to do it. I mean, technically they did it a couple years ago. Luka Doncic kind of had that Atlanta Hawks type run where this team surprisingly made it to the conference finals. So let's see if they're going to be able to do it again. For myself, give me the Cleveland Cavaliers, man. Give me the Cleveland Cavaliers. Sure, they were like a top 4 seed last year, but they got absolutely smoked by the New York Knicks round 1 last year. And I think with a whole new season ahead of them, another full offseason, another full training camp with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland in the backcourt, I'm pretty high on this team. I really do think so, and a lot of that is hinging on the potential of Evan Mobley taking that next leap as an offensive player. I'm really hoping to see that as well. But you have former All-Stars and Darius Garland and Jared Allen on the team, Donovan Mitchell. The addition of Max Strus is going to be absolutely massive. I think they finally have a solidified 3-man, which they haven't had in years, so I really like that pickup as well. Along with a little bit of a better bench. I really like their top 4, and I think they're going to feel the pressure because if this top 4 doesn't work, I have a feeling they're going to feel inclined to make the most of the best years of Donovan Mitchell and maybe try to switch things around if it doesn't really work out this year. I think it's great. They've made sure that this Twin Towers lineup has worked in the past. But if they really want to take it to the next level, they're going to have to show us this year. And a big part of that has to be Evan Mobley taking that big step on the offensive end, not being just that 15-10 guy who could be an all defensive player. We need to see like 20-12, guy that we thought could be potentially be number 1 in the draft, potentially be the best rookie from 2 years ago. So Evan Mobley has like that ability to, and he's shown flashes of it, but we need to see it more on a consistent basis. And I think that if he does take that jump this year, I think the Cavs can really make a deep run and go into the playoffs. So give me them to be that Atlanta Hawks / Cinderella type run this year.
I think it's funny that they actually landed in this segment because this is a team that I feel like you can make an argument could have been in our underrated segment as well. Despite the fact we were talking about Vegas Insider selections for over under a segment or two ago, the Cleveland Cavaliers are picked to win 50 and a half games. They're viewed as one of the top teams in terms of regular season record going into next season. And I think that's because when you look at the makeup of this team, another year of Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell together in the backcourt, them making some of the additions they did, like bringing in Max Strus. Gorgie Jang is huge when you talk about this team because Gorgie Jang is everything I think that Cleveland Cavaliers fans want out of Dean Wade, except it seems like Dean Wade is just always injured. Yeah. So now they almost have like a Dean Wade incentive or like a contingency plan by bringing in a guy like Gorgie Jang. They bring in another physical body like Tristan Thompson, which I don't think he'll get a ton of minutes, but I think it's a mentality thing, TV, because one of the things that we talked about after that series with the Knicks was they just didn't seem like their physicality was ready to match up with the Knicks and what they were coming with in that first round matchup. And it showed. Like Mitchell Robinson single-handedly like dominating Evan Mobley and Jared Allen on the boards was one of the most unprecedented things we've seen in the postseason, like ever. Yeah. And so I think that became something that's really important to them where they wanted to be able to add size. So they bring in a guy like Tristan Thompson, obviously, like I mentioned before, and another guy in Gorgie Jang. Hopefully they can get some safer minutes from a guy like Dean Wade. Max Strus doesn't necessarily sure up their But between Max Strus and Karis LeVert, you're at least going to have some kind of offensive shot creation at the 3 spot, which is not typical for them, right?
Yeah.
They've been stuck with a lot of like Isaac Okoro minutes, and I believe Jetty Osman was another guy who's getting a lot of minutes at the 3 spot. This is definitely an upgrade there as well. So I like Cleveland as another team that I think is going to take the way last year ended very seriously, approach the regular season as so, and then I'm with you. They could be one of those teams that's like really scary in the Eastern Conference, because I mean, we know who the top dogs are, right? We know Boston's going to be there. We know Milwaukee's there. But after that, even Philly's not the kind of lock they've been in years past, because we don't know what's going to happen with that James Harden thing. So Cleveland really is the next team up in terms of like talent when you're ranking the teams in the Eastern Conference.
Potentially, yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, they're still a super young team. So even if this is like not it for them, it's still not the end of the world. But you've seen teams become complacent saying, oh, just give us a couple years and we'll be good. They can't be like that. So if this year doesn't really work out, they're going to need to make some moves to kind of like match up with the rest of the East. But the pieces are there, and the potential of Evan Mobley could still take him over to the next level. I do like that idea. So I think they could do it. They have the talent to do so. They just have to kind of put things together, and I think Evan Mobley is a big part of that. Jay, last question of 21Q. We made it to the end here for the season preview, and I'm going to give you the hardest one of them all.
All right.
Jay, what is your NBA Finals matchup, and who do you have winning the NBA championship this year?
I think it is going to be a battle of the team that I think arguably will have the best defense in the NBA versus the team that I think has the likelihood to have the best offense in the NBA. So I'm going to take the Boston Celtics versus the Phoenix Suns. I'm going to take Boston in 6.
Interesting. That is a damn good matchup over there. The Phoenix Suns depth is going to be definitely something like to see if they're able to maintain that and like try to like make that work for the rest of the regular season. But Boston Phoenix, that's not a bad one, especially when you see the star talent on both sides. I like that pick. I'm going to agree with you with the fact that I have Boston in the finals too. I'm going to have them as well, but I have them going against the Denver Nuggets.
Okay.
And in this matchup, I also have the Boston Celtics winning in 6 in here. I think the Boston Celtics, up and down their roster, I mentioned it last week. We had some guy in the TikTok comment section really like say, is this really the best 6-man lineup? Yes, I do think this is the best 6-man lineup in basketball. Jrue Holiday being the point of attack defender that Marcus Smart was, plus being a better offensive player. Porzingis, I think, is going to be an underrated piece to that defensive scheme that they have there. And now they have even more offensive options over there besides the double J's and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. I really like the Boston Celtics team. And man, the Denver Nuggets team, they barely made moves this offseason. They still got the 2-time MVP in Nikola Jokic. They got Jamal Murray on a full season. I am a big fan of that team, and I think they will make it back to the finals. But in this matchup, I think it's going to be too much offensive firepower for the Denver Nuggets to handle. Give me the Boston Celtics in 6. And that's going to be our 2 finals matchups. So let us know down below your finals matchup. This is going to be some bulletin board material. That's Jay's. This is going to be mine. Let's see if that actually comes to fruition as the regular season does go on, and it starts in 2 weeks. Let's see if these teams are just as good as we think they are. And now we're going to move on to the final segments of the show. We have the draft. We have the quiz. You know how it goes. And in today's draft, Jay, it's going to be a little bit different because we're not drafting teams as we're used to. No. We are drafting the ultimate NBA player. Now, what do you mean by that, TV? We have 6 categories here in front of us. We have the build, we have shooting, we have defense, finishing, passing, and handles. Those aspects make up the NBA player, and we're going to do a draft to try and create the ultimate NBA player using anyone in the league today. So, the caveat is here. If, for example, Jay takes Giannis for finishing, one of the best finishers in basketball, Giannis Antetokounmpo, I can't draft him for defense. I can't draft him for the build. So that goes off the board. So you could only choose one guy, and you can only use him once for one of these positions. Jay, how are you feeling about this draft?
Man, I'm not going to lie. When you first sent me this, I was like, oh, man, we have to think so critically about not only just the kind of player we want, but like the progression of the league for him to be considered a demigod, right? You could get a back to the basket demon, but in 2023, he might not be as much of a demigod, right? So there's certain things you're gonna have to take into consideration to really have an elite player. But we have a pretty nice pool to choose from and a pretty interesting caveat to make sure that we both don't step on each other's toes too much.
100%. And you know how this draft goes. Jay has the first pick. I get the next two, Serpentine style. And then we go 2-2-2, all of that good stuff. So, Jay, you have the pleasure for drafting the first aspect of your ultimate NBA player. Which category are you going to choose and which player are you going to take off the board?
I am going to go with easily the safest pick in the league. I'm going to get Steph Curry shooting out the way.
Yeah. When you have the off the dribble ability moving from side to side and you have, the off the dribble stuff, the full length from three, I don't blame you. Steph Curry for shooting is 100% the pick there. For myself, I gotta take the Greek Freak out of this. There's way too many good categories for Giannis to be a part of this. They have to put him somewhere. Give me Giannis Antetokounmpo for finishing. I think that him and his ability to finish through traffic. Actually, no, forget that. Scrap that. I'm choosing him for defense. I need to have that ability to guard guys on the perimeter and guard him on the interior. The GM survey says enough about his ability of defensively, and we've seen him absolutely dominate games on both sides of the floor. So give me his ability on defense. And I'm also going to take finishing off the board. Give me Kyrie Irving's finishing.
Oh, that's brutal.
This is why I didn't want to take Giannis's, because the silky smooth, acrobatic ability of Kyrie finishing through traffic, going around people, going through people. I might not have the dribbling or the power ability on the inside, but give me Kyrie Irving's finishing. You're not going to be able to block any of those shots, especially with Giannis Antetokounmpo, especially with the player I have right now and the defense it is. I'm liking both sides. So give me Kyrie Irving's finishing.
Oh man, that took him off the board for easily the most interesting one in the book. Handles now gets a little tricky.
Yeah.
But I think the next group I'm gonna go over to passing, and I gotta get Nikola Jokic, man. Gotta get the Yoke, man.
The vision is the best in the league. It's gonna be tough to top that. That's a good one to choose there. Who do you got next?
And then I think for handles, I'm going to get this one out the way just because I don't want him to sink too far down and I completely forget around that time. For handles, give me my boy out of Cleveland. Let me get Darius Garland.
Darius Garland. I like that. You know what? I like that ability for handles. Getting Darius Garland, I like that option for sure. Moving on for myself. You know what? This might be a weird one, but I think his build in general, I mean, we're not going to have any of his basketball abilities, but his build in general, I feel like could be perfect for this type of sort of thing, for this type of draft.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Jonathan Isaac's build. Jonathan Isaac's build.
TV, I hate
not
you,
his
bro.
ability.
Oh my god.
Look, man, a 6'10" guy with that wingspan, with that lengthy ability. Imagine him with the defensive Giannis and that finishing of Kyrie Irving. That is, if you're thinking demigods, that's a pretty damn good demigod. He's not going to be super lanky to the point where you have young guys absolutely picking his pocket every time. He's the perfect size to be a wing too. Give me Jonathan Isaac's build and for my guy over here.
That is brutal.
And then I'm going to leave passing and handles to last. Give me shooting. Give me Damian Lillard. Imagine Jonathan Isaac's body freaking pulling up from the logo. It's a ridiculous player. Give me Damian Lillard shooting to go with that. One of the best shooters in the league.
All right. So what do we got left? We got body, you got finishing, and we got defense. Those are the last three for me. So for body, give me Paolo Banchero.
Ooh, okay. I like that.
Physical frame. For defense, the part that kills me is like, oh man, because you took freaking Jonathan, dude. Like that was that. You know how I feel about Jonathan Isaac, bro.
Yeah. Hey, that's like some of the defensive ability of him too, which is pretty great. Which is like a key part here because he's one of the probably one of the most intriguing defenders in the league.
Yeah. Defense and finishing. Okay, so for defense, this might be a little bit of a reach, but for defense, give me Bam Adebayo.
Ooh. Oh, you already took body too, so that's like your 2 picks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're taking Bam's defense?
Yeah, Bam's defense. So what I think I got finishing as the last one when it comes back.
All right, awesome. So you're taking Bam's defense, which is pretty damn good. Perennial defensive player of the year, so that is not a bad choice at all as well. I got passing, I got handles. For my handles, give me Trae Young. Give me Trae Young's handles.
Okay.
I think he's shifty on the ball. You get Jonathan Isaac's body doing some Trae Young type handles, pulling up from the logo. I like that, getting some guard skills over there, Trae Young. And then for my passing, to be fair, you can use Trae Young for that as well. But I'm gonna go with someone who knows how to pass at his height, and I think his vision is just absolutely elite as well. Give me Ben Simmons passing ability.
Oh my gosh.
Ben Simmons passing ability. I'm not taking any other aspect of Ben Simmons' game, but give me his passing ability to match up with the Jonathan Isaac build. I think that's elite. Give me Ben Simmons. I think he's like at his best, one of the best playmakers in the league. So give me Ben's passing ability.
That's nuts. All right, to finish off for my group, I might get Jamal Murray's finishing.
I like that. I absolutely like that player. When we talk about some demigods, we have some good ones here. Trey, describe to me your ultimate NBA player.
All right, so my ultimate NBA player has the body of Paolo Banchero, the shooting of Stephen Curry, the defense of Bam Adebayo, the finishing of Jamal Murray, the passing of Nikola Jokic, and the handles of Darius Garland.
That's pretty elite, man. That is pretty damn elite. For my guy, I have the build of Jonathan Isaac paired up with Damian Lillard's limitless range ability, Giannis's defense, the finishing of Kyrie Irving. We're gonna see some 360 layups from Jonathan Isaac over here. Then we have the passing of Ben Simmons. Remember, Ben, if you remember, like Ben Simmons a couple years ago, one of the most elite passes in the league, and this guy's gonna be dribbling like Trae Young, dropping guys off every other game.
It's everything I visioned Jonathan Isaac to be, TV. It's everything I've always visioned.
This is your Jonathan Isaac wet dream, bro. This is what you thought he was gonna be. I made your dream come true, man. Congratulations. I mean, if you guys can make a better player, even with the guys remaining, or from like the type of draft that we did, let us know if you could build a better player than any of the 2 guys that we just made over here. Jay, it is time to move to the final topic of the show, and it is time for the NBA quiz. And like I mentioned last week, we played a section of who he played for, and we're going to do part 2 as part of the final season preview episode of the preseason. And you know how this goes. We have 4 easy ones to start off with, 4 medium ones. We have 4 hard ones, and then 1 impossible here at the end. Jay, last week I took down your points you had from a potential. I think that is, 4, 12, so that's 16, 20, 36, 46 points. You had 28, which is pretty solid, which is pretty damn solid. So let's see if you're going to be able to beat that today. Jay, are you ready for this?
Yes, sir. Let's see what I can do.
All right, we're going to start off with the easy. Come on, we're going to get you the layups right away.
All right.
Jay, who he played for? Dante DiVincenzo.
Dante DiVincenzo is now a New York Knick.
Yes, he is. He is joining his Villanova buddies over there, and Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart as a member of the New York Knicks. Okay, next one. Chris Duarte, who he played for.
Chris Duarte is on the Sacramento Kings now.
Yes, he got traded for a 2nd-round pick. This guy was like a rookie, like kind of like a 2-month phenom over there as a rookie, as one of the older rookies. He kind of fell off from them, but hopefully he can find a role over there in Sacramento. Next guy. Joe Ingles, who he played for.
Oh man, Joe Ingles has been on the move recently. Where is Joe Ingles? That is a good question. Huh.
I'm surprised you kind of like ready with this. This is, I think, one of the first signings of the offseason, and this kind of threw me off, not gonna lie.
Yeah, because I feel like I've seen he's on a young team though. That's probably the part that's throwing me. Oh, you know what? He's on the Orlando Magic. I remember listening to a podcast and they were like, "Why do they have this older guy as part of the?" I completely remember this now. Yeah, he's with the Magic, and it's like, where is he even gonna get minutes for playing on this team? And like, I remember, yeah.
Oh, bro. I don't know what his role is
I
here.
don't know.
He might just be there cracking jokes in the locker room as the old wily vet. But yes, he is a member of the Orlando Magic.
Shout out to Jiggling
Weird,
Joe,
one of the
man.
weirder signings of the offseason for sure.
Yeah. What the
Moving on
heck?
to this next guy, Danny Green, who he played for.
Ooh, Danny Green. He's back with the Philadelphia 76ers now.
Yes, he is. He is a
Okay.
member of the Philadelphia 76ers. I just got a notification on my phone. He scored 8 points in 2 minutes. Good for him. Good for him in the preseason. But yeah, Danny Green has returned to the Philadelphia 76ers. Okay, I eased you into it. Those are your easy ones right away.
Okay.
Let's move on. We're moving to taking it up a level here. Jay, Derek Jones Jr., who he played for.
Ooh, Derek Jones Jr. is on the Dallas Mavericks now.
Yes, he is
Yeah.
on the Dallas Mavericks. He's going to be one of
Yeah.
their key wing players there to get some defensive minutes. But Derek Jones Jr., yes, former Chicago Bull, is now a member of the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah.
Next player, Robin Lopez, who he played for.
Is Robin Lopez on the Milwaukee Bucks now?
He has returned to the Milwaukee
Ah.
Bucks. The Twins reunite over there in Milwaukee, Brooke and Robin. I swear he was like out of there for like a year and a half, and then he just ended up returning back to the team. So yeah, he is back as a member of the Milwaukee Bucks. Jay is doing a clean sweep right now. This guy's absolutely killing it. Moving on to the next one. Jalen McDaniels, who he played for.
Ooh, Jalen McDaniels. Okay. So does he put, wait a minute. Does he play for your Raptors now?
Yes, he does.
Okay,
He is a
okay.
member of the Toronto Raptors. As if we needed another 6'9" lanky small forward / power forward, we have Jalen McDaniels also on the roster. Oh, love Masai. Love the Masai project. He's got going on there. It's an agenda. I swear to God, it's an agenda that he has for the Toronto Raptors. He's trying to make, like, we talk about demigods. We're trying to make just a full 6'9" lineup here over here in Toronto. Jalen McDaniels is contributing to that. Last player for the medium category.
Okay.
Josh Christopher, who he played for.
Ooh.
Solid player for the Houston Rockets. He was a pretty good young player over there, but now he's on the move because of some very interesting.
Yeah,
we're not talking about that.
Yeah. My only worry is if he falls under the category of the dude that we did last week, where it was like he signed to the team I'm thinking of, but he got released.
He didn't. I'll tell you right now, the team that he got traded to, they didn't release him.
Okay, so because I haven't been keeping stock on like Josh Christopher crazy, but like he's with Memphis now.
He is with the Memphis Grizzlies.
Okay,
I think he's going to be pretty good for the guard rotation as well. I think he's going to be a nice little player, especially in the early part of the season without John Moran. I think he's going to get some minutes over there. But yeah, he is a member of the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, 8 for 8 so far. 8 for 8. So that is a total of 16 points there for Jay.
All right.
He has a chance. He definitely has a chance. All right, moving on to this next to the hard category. This is where it starts to turn up even more.
All right.
Frank Ntilikina is back in the league. Who he played for?
Oh my gosh, Frank Ntilikina.
Frank the no, that's not. That's freaking Kaminsky, but we're gonna call him Frank over here. Frank Ntilikina.
Oh my gosh. So we know. Okay, so your Knicks days are done. Your Dallas days are shot. Oh my God, I want to say he's on a young team. I gotta envision in my mind what Frank like looks like in a jersey, because it's like
Frank.
Is he like on the Spurs?
Unfortunately, he is not with the San Antonio Spurs. He is a member of the Charlotte Hornets.
Ew! Holy cow!
Ew. I don't know if he's
once again, former Dallas Maverick, former New York Knick. It's like they didn't learn from the Dennis Smith Jr. thing. You should have just handled your business and brought him back. Instead, you let him go to Brooklyn. Like, come on.
Exactly. But Frank Ntilikina is a member of the Charlotte Hornets. Funnily enough, that he played for both of those teams as well. That's pretty funny.
Bro, what the heck?
All right, next player. Mike Muscala, who he played for.
What the heck? Mike Muscala. Oh my God, that's a name. Okay, so we know he doesn't play. We know he doesn't play for OKC anymore. Like, yeah, I'm positive of that.
Do you remember what team he played at the end of last season?
Ooh, that is what team he played for at the end of last season. Does that mean he's still there?
No, he's not. But I'm saying like, that might help. If you remember where he ended up last season, that might help you for where he is now.
Got you. Okay. He's on a team that's butt. I just know that. It's Mike Muscala. Like, come on, bro. Between him and who's my boy that he played on Washington and he played on Dallas, and he's just like, he was just a shooter, but like he sold
Bertans.
Yeah. It's like, they're just on butt teams at this point. They're just collecting checks.
Yeah.
Which I think reminds me, I think Mike Muscala is a Washington Wizard.
I was gonna say, you mentioned.
I was literally just watching media days and rosters for Washington the other day because I was thinking about them recently.
Mike Muscala is a member of the Washington Wizards. The reason I wanted to give you a hint about last year is because he finished the season with the Boston Celtics, and he was a part of the Marcus Smart trade as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So so he is now a member of the Washington Wizards. They're with Primo Pasta Gallinari as well. So both those guys are going to be running at the end of the bench for that team because they are not going to win games.
No way. They're even talking about Bilal Coulibaly maybe playing in the G League, which I don't even think is smart for his development. But I mean, if they want to test him out down there, by all means, hey.
Hey, the Wizards draft history isn't great. They literally drafted Don Davis last year, so I'm hoping for Bilal Coulibaly's sake that they know what they're doing with him. All right, next player. Okay. O'Shea Brissett, who he played for. O'Shea Brissett, Canadian.
He's a Celtic?
He is a Boston Celtic. Yeah, you're right. Ooh, that's a pull right there. The fact that you got there right away. Oh, that's a pull. Yeah, Boston Celtics. O'Shea Brissett. He was low-key pretty decent with the Indiana Pacers, so maybe he might get some some minutes here and there for the Boston Celtics. I think that's some pretty good wing depth. But yeah, he is a member of the Boston Celtics. You're up to 26 points. If you get this next one, you already beat your score from last week.
Okay.
If possible. All right, last one. We're talking about players who have been out of the league for a while. This guy's back in the league. Harry Giles, who he played for.
Oh my God. Okay, quick story on Harry Giles, by the way. This was somebody that I was like insanely hype about. Like,
he was number one in the country in high school, right?
Yeah, he was insane. Like, I remember like he was in that same like Peach Jam / like McDonald's All-American group that had like Trae Young and those guys in there. Yeah. I think it was Trae Young, Gary Trent Jr. Like, there's a bunch of them in there. Yeah. And they were insane. I remember Harry Giles, when he got taken by Sacramento, I thought like, yo, he's going to be a dog. And then I remember I wrote like a whole article on like how he was going to have like a resurgence arc with the Portland Trailblazers. And it just never happened. Bro, oh my gosh. That just reminds me of bro so bad. But Harry Giles, okay. Okay, because we got to remember, redemption arc, Harry Giles, which means he has to be somewhere where like he thinks he can get minutes. It has to be a team that's like barely got anybody at the center spot, because realistically where Harry's gonna play. My phone just fell. That's not a good thing. I gotta think of teams that don't have centers or don't have centers like that. Dallas. We talked about
You know what? I'm looking at the roster right now. He might have a chance to get some minutes. He might.
Okay.
He might.
He's gonna be. Oh my gosh.
Let's see. Ooh, this is a tough one. He's really thinking hard about this.
I know, bro, because this is my boy, so I want to make sure I got him in my mind. Because even though he's in the Jonathan Isaac realm for me, bro, so I want to make sure I got this one. He's one of those disciples.
Yeah.
You feel me? So I gotta make sure I get this one. I'm trying to think of teams that don't have centers or like too many, like too much depth at center. That we haven't talked about already, because like obviously the teams we talked about earlier on, I know their roster. So like Golden State, I know they don't have that. The Knicks, I know they don't have him. God, I think that what is it? I think that the Dallas Mavericks would like to have him if he's healthy as a guy to like throw a body at. San Antonio, it's not Houston, it's not Washington. Is he Brooklyn?
Oh my gosh, he is a Brooklyn Net. Oh my gosh.
Let's
you
go.
Pulled that out of your butt right there.
Look, Nicholas Claxton is another one of those guys, bro. I'm telling you, the 6'10" big men who they told me could shoot, that was gonna be my boy. Now Jonathan Isaac was a little bit different because they told us it was defense, but he said they had the ability to stretch the floor. So I thought, okay, this is gonna be my first guy. Now, hilariously enough, I didn't fall into this trap with Mo Bamba. I don't know how I avoided that, but thank God I did.
Yeah.
But Harry Giles, Nicholas Claxton, who they also called the Slim Reaper in the draft, that's why I like gravitated towards him, because I was like, did they just call that man the same thing as KD? Like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do I need to get hip to this guy? He played at Arkansas. Like, do I need to get hip? So, like, the lanky 6'10" guy you think you could sell me on being a defensive stopper and maybe shoot the three? That's the wet dream of Jalen's project players right there. So,
don't worry.
shout out to Harry Giles, man.
Don't worry.
Him and Dennis Smith Jr. in Brooklyn, man.
Yeah.
Redemption tour, bro.
Oh, love that. Yeah, Harry Giles is a member of the Brooklyn Nets. 31 points, Jay. You can have a chance to get 41 if you get this next one.
Let's see what we can do.
Oh, like I told you, man, it's impossible. This is the impossible one. So let's move on to this last one.
Okay.
This man comes over from Australia.
What the heck?
We're talking about Mr. Jack White. Shout out to the Daily Dribble podcast. They put me on this guy 2 years ago, but he has finally joined the NBA. Who he played for? Jumpin' Jack White.
Wait, what? Wait. Okay. Wait, this is
man, it's impossible.
Wait, no disrespect. This is the impossible one?
Yeah.
Okay, so full disclaimer, I follow the Oklahoma City Thunder on Instagram.
Oh shoot.
So yeah, it's OKC.
Oh shit. Oh gosh.
Full disclaimer, because I saw when you said Jack White was the one, I was like, what? I was thinking that one as a layup, because I'm like, him and Josh Giddey were like the main dudes outside of Shea getting featured on OKC's page during the FIBA tourney.
Oh shoot. Oh.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Big dub. Shout out to Oklahoma City Thunder's Instagram page, man. Shout out to y'all, man.
Oh, shout out to Daily Dribble, man. Jack White has been on my radar the last couple of years, and he was a member of the Nuggets last year. Got some time with OKC. Good for you. You know what, Jay? We're not editing it down. We're gonna make you think of him. This next one.
That was too easy.
We ain't editing it like that. Jay, your next impossible one. I'm sorry to do this to you, my guy, but we're gonna find you one more impossible one. All right. If you get this, man, good on you. Vit Krejci, who he played for. Vit Krejci, who he played for.
Vit Krejci.
Krejci, the former.
Krejci?
Yeah, Vit Krejci.
What?
Vit Krejci, who he played for.
Has he played in the league yet?
I'll tell you right now, this will eliminate one team. He played for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Okay, well, I'll take that.
Yeah. Second year in the league.
What the heck? Vit Krejci.
who he played for.
Oh, it's Vit.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm tripping. Okay. His name is familiar to me. But where does he play?
I didn't know that, I didn't know Jack Harley could be this easy. I can't let you off that easily, my guy.
Nah, that was crazy. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
What?
I mean, to be fair, you got your 41 points. You can literally just throw a team out there. If you could get this, that's crazy.
No, valid, but I feel like I know where he plays for. But I'm gonna sell TV because it's either a blue team or a purple team. I've heard of him before. The minute I realized that you said Vit, not Vic. When you said Vic, I was like, wait.
No,
wait,
Vit, yeah.
You said Vit as in VIT. That guy I've heard of before. And you said second year. Is he a big man? He's a power forward?
Yeah, power forward's like.
See, I'm telling you, I've heard of this dude before.
Yeah, I should know he's a 6'8" point guard apparently.
What?
Yeah, 6'8" point guard according to Basketball Reference.
Okay, wait a minute. That changes things a little bit. Either way, I feel like I know who that is, but 6'8" at PG.
Yeah. Point guard, shooting guard, yeah.
He doesn't play for OKC.
That's the only thing I'm giving you. He's not playing for OKC.
He doesn't play for Memphis. I know he doesn't, because they got too many guards for that. He's a guard. Let's make sure I clarify this, because now I gotta really make it make sense.
It says on Basketball Reference, point guard / shooting guard.
What the heck? Second year?
Second year, man. He's played 59 total career NBA games.
Is he on the same team he played with last year?
Actually, no, this is apparently his third season. No, not second season, third season.
Okay.
He's not.
He's not.
He's not.
But he's played for OKC before.
He's played for OKC. That's all I'm giving you.
Okay. Did I not say he played for a team that wore blue or purple? Okay, so that's where I recognize the name from. So he doesn't play there anymore, but he used to play for OKC. I'm cooking, TV. Let me get this because it's an impossible.
Okay.
I'm trying to cook right now. Okay, so he doesn't play for OKC anymore, but he has played for OKC before. He's 6'8". He plays point guard. Not power forward.
Yeah.
He doesn't play for Memphis. Because for some reason, that was the next team I was thinking of because of the blue thing. But now I know the blue thing came because of OKC. So I was remembering where he used to play. I know where he is. But I don't know if he's going to play.
Let's see.
Does he play for Minnesota?
Oh my God!
Block it! Listen, bro. Anybody who thinks I play around with this stuff on the podcast, you just watched it off the dome. You heard the Super Sleuth clues. The Scooby Doo snacks was coming in clutch, boy. Come on, I do this. Come on, let's go. Oh my God, that just got me super hyped, bro. What? Oh,
I will give you that.
I knew I heard of that man before.
Remember.
Let's go.
I will say he also played for the Atlanta Hawks. That's what we played for last season, the Atlanta Hawks.
Oh, okay. See, that's the thing. If he still played for them, I would have probably jacked that whole thing up. But because I said blue and purple, that's what kept clicking in my mind was I'm like, yo, he definitely played in the Western Conference, 100%. Yeah. 100% played in the Western Conference at some point. When you said he doesn't play for OKC anymore, my first thing was wait a minute. But didn't he play for them at some point? Because you said
first season. So he played in his first season with OKC. Yeah.
Yeah, because originally you said this was his second year, and I was like, wait a minute. He probably was with OKC last year. No, he was with OKC 2 years ago. Okay, that's where his name came from. I don't remember him with Atlanta at all. I will tell the truth.
I will say that too. I know him for his OKC time. I do remember that time.
Yeah.
But Atlanta, I was like, wait, he was with the Hawks last year? I had no clue.
Yeah. Heck no. How many games did he play with Atlanta?
He played 29 games with Atlanta.
So half of his career, you said he played 56 total?
59 total. So he played 30. Yeah, literally split down the middle. So it's like
Yeah.
30 with OKC, 29 with Atlanta.
That's nuts. Nah, see, I'm glad I thought more about the OKC time because I would not have gotten him right if I was thinking about Atlanta. No way.
No, but the fact you pulled the Timberwolves out of your ass is crazy. But you know what, Jay? A round of applause to you. I said at the end there, round of applause. The fact you got Jack White in like nanoseconds was kind of already crazy enough. But then the fact that you were able to do the sleuth thing, get beat crazy at the end there, I'll give you the extra vote. You scored over 100% on this quiz. Congratulations for that one. All right, man. We're gonna go back to some like normal quizzes in the next couple of weeks, but we had to do who we play for to preview this NBA season as well. Let us know down below what other quizzes you guys want to see. That was all-time podcast moment over there, just trying to figure out where Beat Krejci plays for. All-time great moment there. But yeah, that's the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. Thanks for watching the season previews. Like we mentioned, next week, NBA award predictions. That's gonna be a pretty damn good. That's gonna be a pretty good episode. Check out for next week. We're gonna give you ours of predictions. Some more bulletin board material we're gonna have over there. Jay, we're at the end of the episode. What do you have to tell these beautiful people?
Man, TV lined it up. We got a lot of great stuff coming on. We say it every single show. We're getting even more and more enthusiastic about the NBA season. If you guys can't tell, things are only going to get more and more interesting. Yeah. Me and TV have so many plans. We tell you guys this every single episode, but it feels good to be getting closer and closer to that time. Me and TV so many plans for this regular season, recording more episodes for you guys, giving you guys more daily content, coming up with some more unique ideas for this basketball season. There's a lot to enjoy. So if you're not following the Hit Your Free Throws pod on all social medias, I mean, hey bro, get hip now. Press the subscribe button. It's not gonna hurt you. Just punch it one time. It'll change color. It'll be the nice color, the gray color that says subscribed. Follow us on YouTube, follow us on TikTok, follow us on Spotify, Apple. Come on, man. Follow us on the Instagrams. You know the vibes, bro. Regular season coming around the corner. It's going to be a different type of demon this year.
100%. You took the words out of my mouth. And of course, also, I mean, he mentioned all the Hit Your Free Throw stuff. Make sure you follow our personal pages as well, because we're going to be starting those out back up very soon. So make sure you follow the Knockdown J and TV on basketball. So we're going to be both back on that pretty soon. But yeah, another fantastic episode. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you all have a fantastic day. That's Jay over there. This is TV signing out. Take it easy, guys. Peace.
Peace.